Many years ago, when I was in high school, I was staying up late playing video games. Parents were out, but no big deal. Being home alone didn't scare me. So I'm playing the game, and at around 3 AM, my parents finally arrive. This in itself wasn't unusual, but based off their demeanor, something had happened. My dad told me that on their way back from their friend's house a far drive away, he had noticed they were being followed. My mom had no idea, but my dad, being the driver, was aware of this car that had followed them from about halfway back. Our house was in the suburbs, and thus, getting to our house involved a few turns and whatnot. My dad purposely drove past our house without stopping, which is when my mom asked what he was doing. Sure enough, the car continuously followed my parents through the neighborhood. My dad ended up driving to the police station, which is when the car turned away and stopped following them. It's scary to think what could have been had my dad not had the presence of mind to be aware of his surroundings as a driver and to act on his intuition. My parents would have opened the garage door to put the car in, and the idea that a car whose occupant or occupants likely had a malicious intent was right behind them is a thought that still bothers me to this day. Because of that past incident, I learned to always mind my surroundings when driving. Edit. I'm quite surprised at the number of replies and similar stories people have shared. I'm also amused that some think it was a mere harmless prank. While that certainly had been a possibility, here's some relevant information I should have included initially. My parents were coming back from their friend's house in AskReddit, California, roughly 80 miles north of where we lived at that time. My dad said that he believes the car had followed them beginning around Thousand Oaks, California, as he remembered a distinctive mismatch on the headlights, something about one being dimmer and of different luminosity than the other. Thousand Oaks was about 60 miles from where we used to live. A harmless prank that involves following a random car for 60 miles? If that were the case, I'd feel more pity on the teenagers who had nothing better to do past midnight. In any case, let's all stay safe and vigilant out there. Me and my fiance saw a guy on the side of the road asking for a ride. I told her there was no way in fuck I'd pick up a male hitchhiker. She told me it was the right thing to do, but I convinced her that we shouldn't. 3 days later he was arrested for murdering the couple that picked him up. I'm 52. When I was about 8 years old, 5 other 8 to 10-year-olds were in a kid's bedroom playing. This one boy and me were wrestling around when someone turned off the lights. When the light went off there was a loud pop. Another kid had found a pistol and fired it. I was laying on the bedroom floor. The bullet missed my head by 2 inches. It was a straight down shot that narrowly missed. When I was 15 to 16, my mom put me on diet pills, still don't know what they are, that let me get away with just eating a tiny cup of soup the whole day and be okay with sleeping less than 3 hours daily. I got hooked on them because I could study way more. I guess the sleep deprivation finally caught up one night and I started having auditory hallucinations. It started with white noise, then morphed into what sounded like a garbled shouting argument between a bunch of people, and started echoing until it became a man with a deep, sinister laugh laughing hysterically. The rational part of me figured it's auditory hallucinations, but holy crap, it was petrifying, and I could feel every hair standing up. Then another part of me just thought, well, if it's not a hallucination, and I'm actually going to get murdered by bloodthirsty ghosts, at least I don't have to take the test tomorrow. I continued studying. Asian schools were tough. There's a guy near me that police are looking for now. He broke into this lady's house and went through all of her belongings, masturbated all over her bed, stole her underwear, left Polaroid pics of his dick spread out in the room, and left her a note saying he was coming back while she was home. Police said they believe it's not someone she knows. She has a female roommate, and he only went into her room, so he had been watching her enough to know which room of the house was hers. Very creepy. Saw a guy get his throat cut. I was quite young and there were a bunch of middle school kids fighting, then one pulled out a knife and slit the other's throat. Blood was gushing out, and that scene was kinda branded in my mind. I've read one about this woman who was having a bath and turned the hot water knob on with her feet. She somehow had a stroke and couldn't move her body at all. So she couldn't turn off the hot water and was basically being boiled alive. Paramedics came like 3 days later and apparently the bathroom smelled like cooked meat. The wallpaper of the room was peeling off from the steam of the hot water and she was barely alive when they arrived. Here's the full link. If anyone is interested, link edit. There are some other really graphic stories on there too. Be warned. I just posted this in another thread, but thought I'd go into detail. Someone broke into my house today and made himself a plate of food, took a shower, and put on my father-in-law's clothes, and even switched my laundry. Me and my girlfriend walked in on him sitting by the front door. My GF's father knows a lot of people, and he was wearing my GF's father's work shirt, so we just assumed he knew him. He asked us if we believed in God, and told us the church sent him. We ran out immediately and called 911. He did not chase us fast at all. He calmly walked out the door as we drove away. While on the phone, we watched him hop 2 fences very calmly. He saw the cop coming down the road. He came in literally 1:30, thank God, and ditched the shirt. We didn't know if we had locked our gun cabinet, so we didn't know if he was armed. The cop jumped out and detained him, and he calmly went to the ground. He destroyed the house, but didn't take anything. He ruined my GF's parents' bathroom door, like he got stuck inside the bathroom. He tore the tile in our room. He made a pile of what he was gonna take, but didn't even run when we caught him. My girlfriend is very shook up, because this guy must have been here while we were, because we were only gone for 45 minutes. The timing of when we got home was so perfect. My GF accidentally honked the horn when we pulled up, notifying him that we were home. Normally we walk in the house and go straight to our room and we would not have noticed him if he was still in the shower or in the kitchen. He has previous charges of battery with a deadly weapon. Thank God we got lucky. He was definitely watching the house to know our very predictable leaving patterns. Drugs are a crazy thing. Edit. I finally went to sleep and awoke to 5.5k upvotes. We are okay, just really shook and couldn't sleep last night. It was just crazy that this happened to us that live in the middle of nowhere. We are very thankful for the events playing out the way they did. Thank you guys for the support. When I was 8 and my brother 6, my mom picked us up from school one day. When we got home my mom had forgotten her keys, so she knocked on the door for my grandma to let us in. Now architecture is super important to the story. We lived in a very well-to-do apartment building on the 8th floor, where each floor was a long rectangle with a single apt on each end, so 2 apts per floor. In the middle of the rectangle of each floor, there was a single elevator. The building was essentially all glass. There were no external fire staircases or ladders and the nearest structure was another building an entire block away. Okay, so we knock on the door. My grandma yells from the inside, incoming. So we wait. And we wait 1 minute, nothing. So we knock again. Again my grandma, I said I'm coming. 3 minutes, then 5. She still isn't opening the door, even though we can clearly hear her in the kitchen inside the house. So we are getting pissed. We knock and she just keeps on saying the same thing. I said I'm coming. I'm coming right now. 10 minutes later, the elevator opens behind us, and out comes my grandma. The apartment had been empty the entire time. It's been 20 years since then and my mom, brother, and I all clearly remember talking to that voice that sounded exactly like my grandma. Zero explanation. My grandma is still alive BTW. Had to work. My grandma said she'd come with me, and we agreed to meet right in front of the house where the doctor is at. I'd been waiting for half an hour when I finally decided that it's time to go on in on my own as not to miss my appointment. After I went on to school, and once I got home my dad asked me where I'd been the morning. Apparently my grandma had waited in the exact same spot. We were able to tell about the exact same situations occurring which we saw while waiting, yet completely phased out of each other's existence. Weird. And no, it's not like that street was crowded, complete emptiness apart from the 2 or 3 passerbys and an ambulance. Children and cats share the ability to shift between dimensions, bend the space-time continuum, and in general can do whatever the heck crosses their mind. This is because they have yet to learn the rules of reality, and is also the reason why you should never ever leave your eyes off children you're babysitting. Their powers only function while not being observed by a rule-aware observer. So keep in mind, closed doors, walls etc. will not stop them, and nothing is too high to be out of reach. In my case, I was pretty much depressed since birth and felt particularly numb that morning, so my best bet is that I simply forgot to keep existing while waiting that morning.